Did you ever hear about this 94-year-old woman, Opal Lee? Have you heard about her?
No,
She was next to. I didn't know anything about her until I read that she was next to President Biden when he signed had the ceremony signing Juneteenth as a national holiday. Now, let me tell you a little bit about this lady. There she is right there, standing next to President Biden as he signed the documentation to make Juneteenth a national holiday. Lee grew up in Marshall and Fort Worth, Texas. She celebrated Juneteenth every year. And on Juneteenth in 1939, when she was 12 years old, a white mob raided and burned down her family's home. During his speech before the signing, Biden asked the audience to give Opal Lee, who was seated in the front row, a standing ovation. He got down on one knee as Vice President Kamala Harris introduced her, saying, "You are an incredible woman," and gave Lee the pen he used to sign the bill into law. Now, wow. Lee told reporters after Congress passed the bill on Wednesday, "I'm so delighted to know that finally we have got Juneteenth bill passed, and now we can all finally celebrate the whole country together." Now, for the two people out in the world who don't know what Juneteenth is, it is often referred to as Freedom Day or Emancipation Day. We're celebrating June 19th, 1865, when Union soldiers arrived in Galveston, Texas, and announced to the slaves that were still working in the plantation fields that slavery is now over. You are free. And these were the last slaves, the last enslaved people in America to find out that they were free. And this was months and months after the end of the Civil War. Unfortunately, in the 1860s, there was no internet and no telephone. So Juneteenth has been celebrated by Opal Lee for almost her entire life. Now, at the age of 89, remember, she's 94 years old.
Wow.
Opal Lee decided her new life mission was to spread the word about Juneteenth to everybody. And she figured the best way to do it was to help get Juneteenth accepted as a national holiday. So in 2016, Opal decided to start with a walking campaign. And she walked 1,400 miles from her home in Fort Worth, Texas, as an 89-year-old woman to Washington, D.C. to bring awareness and support to make Juneteenth a federal holiday.
From Texas to Washington, you said, Brad?
1,400 miles.
Wow.
I am 52 years old, and I would not be able to do that walk. She's 89 years old. It took her several weeks. Lee arrived in cities where she was invited to speak. So during this walk, she's giving speeches.
Wow.
And she walked 2.5 miles to symbolize the 2.5 years that it took for, in several cities, she would walk 2.5 miles before her speech as a symbol for the 2.5 years that it took for enslaved people in Texas to learn that they were free. Now, the Emancipation Proclamation was several years before. The end of the Civil War was in 3 months. She said, "I was thinking that surely somebody would see a little old lady in tennis shoes trying to get Congress to notice to pass this law." Now, since then, Opal Lee has become known as the Grandmother of Juneteenth. Her annual walks culminated in a trip to the Capitol in September, carrying a petition signed by 1.5 million Americans, urging Congress to pass legislation to make Juneteenth a federal holiday. She went year after year, was never successful. But undeterred, she returned again in February as a new version of the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act was introduced. Now, she is the grandmother, the face of Juneteenth. I want to just say a couple of technicalities, okay, about the holiday. All right. there is no such thing as a national holiday because the president and Congress can never assert power to declare a holiday that binds all 50 states to have a national holiday. So, in fact, there are no national holidays in the United States of America. Instead, what the United States of America can do, which is what they did here, is they can declare Juneteenth a federal holiday, which is different than a national holiday. And when they declare Juneteenth a national holiday, federal employees are all given the day paid off. Now, there are only 10 federal recognized holidays throughout the entire calendar year. The last time a federal holiday was put onto the calendar was 1983. That's how far we go back before they added a federal holiday before this. It was Ronald Reagan, Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
Oh, wow. That was the
last federal holiday given. So, now, going back to Opal Lee, she said this year, the annual 2.5-mile walk is going to be national, in addition to the Fort Worth event. Organizers in Houston, Los Angeles, Atlanta, New York, and other cities have set up walks to commemorate the day. So there's going to be 2.5-mile walks everywhere on Juneteenth in commemoration of Juneteenth, in support of Juneteenth, in recognition of the 2.5 years it took for the enslaved people in Texas to learn they were free, and in recognition also of Opal Lee, who was walking these 2.5 miles within cities during her walk before she would give her speeches. She would walk 2.5 miles to the speech. Now, with every step, Lee said she prays and she gives thanks. And she says, I'll be thinking of my ancestors. I'll be thinking about my great-great-grandchildren and my grandchildren and my children. So that is really a very touching story. Almost brings me to tears a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, honestly, you know, like you well up a little bit. You think, you know, what she did. Pretty good.
Yeah.
And you know what's so beautiful about it is she, of course she did it for her too, but like, you know, she really did it for the people to come, you know, the generations to come. It's almost selfless, you know, she's dedicated her life to this, and for her to be so happy, it's not like, you know, other people would be like, oh, this, when I'm 94, now they're doing this, I can't even enjoy it really, but like she's doing it for generations to come, and that's what's so beautiful about it.
How do you walk at 89, 1,400 miles? How's that even possible?
You have to be really passionate about something.
And you got to be in really good shape at 89 too.
You do.
And you got to have 100% your mind and 100% your body.
Yeah.
To be able to do that and be the grandmother of Juneteenth at 89 years old?
She deserves it.
Wow. Thanks for watching. For more Bradshaw Live, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.